ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. There's a moment in a man's life that hits him like no other. It ain't when you leave him shouting. It ain't when you cuss him out or slam the door. No. The real moment, the one that sticks with him, is when he looks around and sees you moved on peacefully. A man walks around thinking he's got time. Time to fix it. Time to explain. Time to come back. That's what a lot of men do. They operate off the belief that she's still going to be there when he's ready. He thinks she ain't going nowhere because maybe she stuck by him when he was down. Maybe she forgave him when she shouldn't have. Maybe she waited. And see, that kind of love, that kind of patience, that creates a false sense of security for a man who ain't ready to grow up. So he plays, he drifts, he ignores, he assumes. But one day he looks around and she's not there. Not in anger, not in bitterness, not throwing things or slamming doors. She's just gone. Quiet, calm. She ain't posting about heartbreak. She ain't calling. She ain't arguing. And that's when it hits him. That shock, it ain't loud, it's silent, and it sinks in deep like a cold wind that runs through your chest and doesn't leave. A peaceful goodbye is the most dangerous kind. It's not loud, but it's final. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't demand closure. It is closure. And when a man sees that, when he sees that she's not just pretending, she's really truly moved on, something inside him wakes up. That ego that thought he could always come back cracks. That confidence he had in her staying power shatters. Because peace means she didn't just leave the relationship. She left a version of herself that needed it. It's like this. When a woman is yelling, she still cares. When she's arguing, she's still emotionally involved. When she's fighting, even through the pain, she's still holding on to some part of it. But when she's quiet, when she stops responding, that's when you know that silence ain't empty. It's full of lessons, full of strength, full of everything he didn't see while she was still pouring herself into loving him. And that right there is the twist most men never see coming. They expect her to lash out, to break down, to beg. But when she does none of that, when she moves on with dignity, with peace, with a smile that no longer waits for his attention, it rocks him. Because he starts to realize that maybe she didn't need him like he thought she did. Maybe it was him who needed her. And now she's going, and she didn't even make a scene. You know why it hit so hard? Because peaceful moving on is rare. It's mature. It takes strength. Any fool can leave angry, but it takes a healed woman to walk away without the need to prove anything. And when a man sees that, when he sees that she ain't out there chasing a replacement or putting on a show, but just living, breathing, growing, healing, that's when regret kicks in, real regret. Not the kind that says, I missed the relationship, but the kind that says, I didn't see her when she was right in front of me. That's the moment he stops thinking about what went wrong and starts thinking about what he did wrong. He starts replaying moments, her smile, her patience, the time she showed up, the messages he didn't answer, the chances she gave him that he didn't earn. And now it's too late because she don't want him back, not out of anger, but because she's past needing what he failed to give. That peaceful moving on, It tells him everything she couldn't say before. It speaks louder than words. And the hardest part for him is realizing that the door isn't just closed, it's no longer there. She didn't slam it. She simply built a new house, one where his presence is no longer needed. That's what stuns him. Not the fact that she left, but the way she left, with love for herself. Peaceful moving on is the kind of thing that doesn't hit all at once. It's a slow, creeping realization that shows up in the quiet moments. When he sees her laugh again, when he hears about her doing better, when he scrolls and sees her glowing, not bitter, not broken, just better. And that's when it lands. That's when he knows he didn't lose her in the fight, he lost her in the silence. You know what hits a man harder than a door slammed in his face? What messes with his pride more than screaming or tears? It's when she walks away, not mad, not broken, but with grace. That's when his ego takes the biggest hit, because a man can argue with anger, he can justify drama, he can handle a little fire. But what he can't process, what breaks him on a different level, is grace, that calm strength, that silence, that dignity. When she doesn't curse him out, doesn't broadcast her pain, doesn't throw shade, when she just leaves and lets her peace do the talking, oh, that's when it stings. See, a man expects a woman to fall apart when he leaves. That's the narrative he's built in his head. He thinks his absence is going to leave her lost, crying, unsure of herself. So when she doesn't crumble, when she carries herself like a queen, not even stumbling, that's when he starts feeling small, because he was hoping her pain would validate his worth. He was counting on the chaos to remind him he still matters. But she didn't give him that. She gave him silence. She gave him elegance. And she gave him her back. That's not weakness, that's power. A woman walking away in grace is a woman who's mastered her emotions. She's not controlled by the need to hurt back. She's not waiting on revenge. She's not here to make a scene. She's simply choosing herself without apology. And to a man who's used to being chased, begged, forgiven over and over again, that shift shakes his confidence. Because now she's not asking for anything, not even closure. Men don't expect that. They expect tears. They expect a reaction. They expect drama, because drama means they still hold emotional real estate in her heart. But when she's gone and peaceful, that means he doesn't own a thing anymore. That grace tells him that whatever hold he had, it's done. Because a woman doesn't need to destroy a man to prove she's over him. Sometimes her peace is enough to do the damage. That ego, man, it's a fragile thing. It thrives on being needed. It feeds off being wanted. It grows when someone's begging them to come back. But what happens when the calls stop? What happens when she's not checking for him, not throwing subs online, not sending long paragraphs? What happens when she's just living, thriving, glowing? That's when the ego goes into crisis. That's when he realizes she really let me, not because she hated him, not because she wanted to hurt him, but because she respected herself enough to stop fighting for someone who wouldn't fight for her. And grace doesn't mean she didn't feel pain. It doesn't mean she wasn't hurt. It just means she decided her energy was too expensive to waste on someone who didn't value it. That grace is what makes her unforgivable. He might forget the arguments. He might move past the tension, but he will never forget the day she walked away calmly, beautifully, gracefully, without needing to prove a single thing. That image, that stays with a man because it challenges everything he believed about control. When she walks out like that, it forces him to confront something he's been avoiding, that she was the prize all along. Not because she left him, but because of how she left. That's what changes the whole narrative. He goes from thinking she was emotional, too much, too clean, to realizing she was strong, patient, and more woman than he knew what to do with. And he ain't gonna say it out loud, but he'll feel it. He'll feel it every time he sees a woman lose herself in drama and remember the one who didn't. The one who bowed out, not to lose, but to win herself back. That grace, that's a mirror. It shows him who she really was, and it shows him who he wasn't ready to be. And that truth will echo longer than any argument ever could. Let me tell you something real. After a breakup, people expect noise. They expect yelling, crying, maybe even throwing stuff around. That's what we've seen in the movies. That's what we've been conditioned to think love looks like when it ends. But the truth is, silence, real silence, and peace, those things speak louder than any argument ever will. When she gets quiet, when she no longer needs to raise her voice, when she just stops talking altogether, that's when a man should start paying attention. Because that silence, that ain't emptiness. That's full of everything he didn't hear while she was still trying. A woman only goes silent when she's been loud in all the ways that mattered and still wasn't heard. She begged with her actions, she pleaded with her patience, and she cried in private more times than she can count. But when she reaches that point where nothing she says seems to matter, she stops saying anything at all. And that's when everything changes, because now she's not fighting for the relationship anymore. She's fighting for her peace. See, peace don't mean she didn't care. It means she cared too much for too long. And now she's done explaining herself. She's done hoping for something different. She's done repeating herself to somebody who wasn't listening the first time. And you better believe that silence hits harder than any scream ever could, because a scream is temporary. But silence, that lingers. It leaves a man wondering. It makes him sit with himself, face the parts of him he's been running from. Silence forces reflection. It's uncomfortable. It's loud in a whole different way. And then there's the peace. That's what really throws a man off, not the sadness. He can handle that. Not the anger. He can argue with that. But peace, he don't know what to do with that. Because peace says, I'm okay now. I made it through without you. Peace says, I'm no longer interested in fixing what you kept breaking. Peace is powerful. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't need validation. It just is. And when she starts moving in peace, when she starts living like her heart ain't chained to the past anymore, when she's smiling for real and not just for show, that's when it hits him. Not because she tried to make him jealous, not because she replaced him, but because she found herself. And finding peace after heartbreak, that's the most threatening thing a man who thought she'd never leave can witness. Silence makes a man think. Peace makes him reflect. And now, all those little things he brushed off, they start flooding back. Her late night texts, her quiet support, the way she always understood, even when he didn't explain. All those moments he took for granted now feel like memories he can't get back. And there's no closure for him because she's already given herself that. Her silence was her answer. Her peace was her goodbye. And don't confuse that peace with pretending. This ain't about faking it. This is about a woman who did the work, who cried when no one was watching, who broke in private so she could heal in silence. And now she's not bitter. She's not holding grudges. She's just free. That freedom didn't come easy. It came from releasing someone who never made her feel safe to speak, safe to feel, safe to be heard. So when he finally realizes what that silence meant, when he understands that her lack of reaction was her biggest reaction, it hits different. It cuts deeper than anything loud ever could. Because silence and peace, they don't just say, I'm done. They say, I grew past needing your presence. And that message is loud enough to echo for the rest of his life. When a woman finally finds peace, it becomes the loudest wake-up call a man will ever hear. It ain't immediate. It don't come with fireworks or alarms. It creeps in slow. But when it hits hard. Because a man can ignore the arguments. He can shake off the tears. He can sleep through the late night messages, the begging, the breakdowns. But peace, a woman's peace, is the one thing that doesn't let him sleep easy anymore. It gets in his mind, his spirit. It don't shout, but it echoes. And every time he thinks about her, it's that peace that plays over and over in his head. See, when she was emotional, he felt in control. That emotional investment told him he still mattered. That energy she gave to fix things, to argue, to explain, he took that as a sign that she hadn't let go yet. And that kept him comfortable. As long as she was fighting, he believed he still had a place. Even if he didn't want to fix it, even if he wasn't ready, knowing she was still trying gave him a kind of power. But then, one day, the noise stopped. She didn't call. She didn't cry. She didn't argue or explain. She just went still, calm, collected, peaceful. And that's when he started to feel the shift. Because peace is powerful. It ain't passive, it's active. It means she made a choice not to let him disturb her spirit anymore, a choice to stop letting his inconsistency ruin her joy, a choice to put her energy into herself instead of into trying to change a man who didn't want to grow. That right there becomes his alarm clock. It wakes him up out of the fog he's been walking through, because now he has to face the fact that she doesn't need him anymore. That peace tells him he's no longer the center of her world. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially for a man who took her love for granted, who thought she'd always be waiting. That peace doesn't say she's done in a bitter way. It says she's finally free. And freedom, real emotional freedom, that's the point of no return. She ain't pretended. She ain't playing games. She's just gone from that space where he once mattered most. And the more peaceful she becomes, the louder it gets in his own head. He starts replaying moments, rethinking everything. He starts noticing what he missed when he had her. The way she held him down, supported him, loved him in ways he didn't even know how to receive. And now she's not asking for anything, not his time, not his apology, not even his presence. She just wants peace. And the crazy part is, that's what hurts him most. Because a man can handle anger. It's emotional, but temporary. He can live with blame, even guilt, but when she moves in peace, that's forever. That tells him she healed, she accepted it, she forgave him in her own way, not to reconnect, but to release. And that release, that's what wakes him up. A peaceful woman ain't out for revenge. She's not looking back. She's not hoping for anything. She's building something new. Something that doesn't include him. And while he's sitting there wrestling with regret, she's finding joy in the quiet. She's learning to love herself deeper. And every time he sees her smiling, glowing, laughing, without him, that's the reminder, that's the wake-up call. He didn't just lose her, he lost the version of her that loved him in ways no one else did. And now her peace is proof that she won't ever need to go back to that again. And trust me, that's a sound a man never forgets. Let me break it down real simple. A woman reacting, that means she's still emotionally invested. You yell, she yells back. You disappear, she blows up your phone. You lie, she confronts you. That reaction, that's energy. That's involvement. That's a woman who's still fighting, even if it's messy. And as long as she's reacting, most men don't reflect. They dodge, they deflect, they point fingers, they blame her attitude, her tone, her overreacting. They use her emotion as a shield to avoid accountability. But when that woman stops reacting, when she goes quiet, steady, still, oh, now you got a whole new situation on your hands. See, a man doesn't start to reflect when she's screaming. He doesn't change when she's still giving him a piece of her heart, even if it's through frustration. But when the calls stop, when she don't care enough to argue, when she hears the lies and don't even flinch anymore, that's when something shifts in him. That silence don't feel like peace to him. It feels like absence. It feels like space. And now he's sitting there without the distraction of her emotions, and for the first time, he's got nothing to hide behind. Now it's just him and his choices. That's when the reflection starts. Late at night, early in the morning, in the middle of scrolling through old pictures. Suddenly starts remembering everything she said, all the things he ignored while she was saying them. He starts thinking about all those arguments where he brushed her off, all those times she cried and he thought she was being dramatic, all the ways she tried to make it work while he stayed comfortable, and it haunts him. Because now she's not trying anymore. She's moved on, not with hate, but with indifference. And indifference, that's worse than anger. Because anger still means he mattered. But indifference, that means he's become irrelevant in a heart that used to beat for him. That's when the mirror shows up. Not the one on the wall. I'm talking about the emotional mirror. The one that makes him face the truth of who he was. Not who he pretended to be, not who he told his boys he was, but who he really showed up as in that relationship. And trust me, that reflection don't always look good. He starts noticing all the little things he once overlooked. The way she kept trying to love him even when she was tired. The way she stayed loyal even when he was making her question herself. The way she kept showing up until she finally stopped. And he wonders, Why didn't I see this then? Why didn't I listen when she was still talking? Why did I only start seeing clearly when she went silent? It's because a woman's silence has a way of amplifying everything he never appreciated. That absence starts speaking loud. And every day she doesn't come back, every day she doesn't react, it chips away at that pride he used to hide behind. Because now he realizes she was the one. And not just because she left, but because of how she left. With class, with peace, without begging. And that makes him reflect even harder. A man don't reflect when he's being catered to. He reflects when he's left alone with the weight of his decisions. And when the noise is gone, when the emotional roller coaster stops, when she no longer even looks his way, that's when it hits. That's when he starts replaying it all. Not because he's forced to, but because now there's nothing else left to distract him from the truth. Her silence became the teacher. And that lesson, that one stays with him longer than anything she could have ever said. You know, people always talk about loss in the moment it happens. Like when she finally walks out that door, that's the moment he lost her. But let me tell you something, that ain't the moment it really hit him. That ain't the moment his world shifts. No, see the real loss? That don't show up when she packs her bags or sends that final message. It shows up later, quietly, unexpectedly. When he sees her happy, genuinely happy, and he ain't the reason for it, that's when it finally sinks in. That's when regret grabs him by the collar, because in the back of his mind, he thought she'd be waiting. He thought maybe she'd struggle without him. Maybe she'd keep hoping, keep checking in, keep posting sad quotes like some women do when they're still holding on. But then one day, he sees her. Maybe it's a photo, maybe a mutual friend brings her up. Maybe he runs into her on the street and she's glowing. That laugh is real. That energy is light. That peace in her face, it's undeniable. And it hits him harder than any goodbye ever did. Because in that moment, he realizes she didn't just leave him, she healed without him. She found a version of herself he never supported. She discovered a joy he never gave her. And the craziest part, she ain't even trying to prove a point. She ain't flaunting it. She's just living. And that kind of peace, that kind of happiness that don't need an audience, that's what stings. Because now he understands he wasn't her source of happiness. He was her obstacle to it. That's when the memories start flooding in. He starts thinking about how many times she tried, all the love she gave, the little things she did that he brushed off, the way she stood by him even when she was hurting. He remembers how he used to look at her and think she'd never leave, that no matter how bad it got, she'd still be there. But now she's smiling in pictures without him. She's laughing with new people. She's creating new memories. And he's not a part of a single one of them. That absence, that's loud. He thought his presence was irreplaceable, but her happiness without him is undeniable proof that he was wrong. And that's when it turns. That's when it stops being about pride and starts becoming about pain. Not because she hates him, not because she said anything cruel, but because she's fine. She's more than fine. She's thriving. And he has to live with the fact that he wasn't the one who brought her to life. He was the one she had to leave in order to come alive. That's a tough pill to swallow, man. Because now it's too late. that version of her who needed him, who waited for him to change, who cried for him, she's gone. She doesn't exist anymore. What he's looking at now is a healed woman, a wiser woman, a woman who doesn't need closure, validation, or revenge. Just peace. And the cruel irony is, he finally sees her clearly, but only after she's already moved on. He didn't just lose a woman. He lost a woman who would have stood by him through anything if he'd just done right by her. He lost a future, a partner, a kind of love people search their whole lives for. And he realizes she's happy and he's just watching. From the outside, from the place where his ego once stood tall, now replaced by silence and memory. And that's when he truly knows what it means to lose. Not when she left, but when he saw she never needed to look back.